Before I get started with this story, shout out to Craig J for sending it to me. And you're probably wondering, why do I have a picture up of Emmett Till? Did they deface his I shouldn't use that word. Did they destroy his memorial again? Because it seems like every time I come on here to talk about a story about Emmett Till, it usually is about that. But no, it has nothing to do with his memorial. We haven't heard anything about them messing with his memorial in quite some time. So it looks like they finally got it right as far as a location for it to get away from the vandals who like to mess with it. But this has something to do with a story that's coming out of Missouri. And ironically, Missouri is the state that I'm on right now when it comes to sundown towns for my sundown series that is currently in rotation every Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The irony. But basically what you have here is a story about a single mother with 7 kids who moved from where they were at to another place, which was in Missouri, I guess, so she could have better schooling for them and whatnot. And ever since then, it has been a nightmare for her and her children on a racial level. And a text message came through, or something through a Snapchat, it looked like a Snapchat, to one of her sons that basically said, "Take you like they did Emmett Till," which is why I titled the video the way that I did, because that's actually what it said in the Snapchat text. So I'm going to go ahead and read the article and get a little bit more context behind this. Tiffany Witt is a single black mother of 7 sons. She moved from Kansas City to Kearney last year for more room because she knew Kearney as a good school district. But since then, the family has received death threats, has had maggots placed in their mailbox, and has been called racial slurs on more than one occasion. Witt has pulled her children from Kearney schools after her 15-year-old reported that one fellow student at Kearney Junior High had written the N-word on a class project and another student called him the slur. Witt's son was accused of inappropriately touching a female student. Now, doesn't that sound just like what Emmett Till was accused of, but it wasn't touching, it was whistling? And ironically, they were around the same age because Emmitt Till was 14 and her son is 15. I'm talking, it's like history slowly repeats itself. The school is investigating whether he violated the district's anti-harassment, discrimination, and retaliation policy by touching another student's buttocks. But he was only trying to hug a white girl he thought of as a friend in the school hallway, he told his mother. I can imagine how y'all are going to sound off in the comments just by me even reading that line, or even the first couple of lines. Threats soon followed. An investigation into the school incident continued this week. An anonymous threat referenced Emmitt Till, and one message directed to him on May 24th was alarming enough that Kearney police opened an investigation that's still ongoing. "Nigger, you weak." That's what it said with a hard ER. The Snapchat message read, "Touching, name redacted. I'm gonna pull up at your house and shoot you, nigger. You weak as fuck, bitch ass nigga. If I see you, I'm going to kill you for touching. It's a group of us who's gonna pull up and take you like they did Emmett Till." Now, listen to how that's worded. These are teenagers, as far as we know, that is writing this message to another teenager in 2021. And they claim that racism and dub S does not exist. Yet, here we are with this type of verbiage being used, and look at who they referenced. The boy you see on the screen, which we all know was one of the most brutal acts against a black person ever in the history of America. And for something that was alleged. Let's see, what else are they saying? 2 cry laughing emojis followed. District officials have mishandled the whole situation, Witt said. Students weren't immediately disciplined after her son reported being called the N-word twice. People don't understand how traumatizing that word can be, she said. Suspensions were eventually handed out, Witt was told, but complaints to district leaders were followed by a claim against her child. So basically, they just went along with the allegation that her son inappropriately touched this white girl and completely ignored that her son was called the N-word multiple times and he was hit with death threats. Sounds about white, of course. School officials were prohibited from commenting on specific allegations, a spokesman for the Kearney School District wrote in a statement. The district does not respond publicly to situations that involve potential or actual litigation, the statement read. Responses in those cases will be done through the court system. In case district leaders need a refresher course of their own policy, retaliation against people who participate in harassment or discrimination investigation is prohibited in Kearney schools. School administrators threatened an in-school suspension before the harassment investigation was complete, Witt said. She pulled her son from the school and filed a complaint with the U.S. Department of Education Office for Civil Rights as a result. In the complaint, she accuses the school of discrimination and retaliation. She wants the district to develop a robust policy to weed out discriminatory behavior. Witt filed the claim after a review of the surveillance video found no evidence of sexual harassment or assault committed by her child. She sat with Assistant Superintendent Jeff Morrison to view the footage. The video clearly shows my son pointing at the young woman's back, Witt said. She wrote a letter to Morrison voicing her displeasure with the investigation. In observing the footage, I did not see my son touch this girl's butt, Witt wrote. There is one point in the footage where he walked around her and points at the back of her shirt. You stated that is when he touched her butt. You played it over and over, and I told you that he was pointing at something on the back of her shirt. The other student in the video does the same thing. Morrison did not reply to the email. You all rendered discipline in the midst of an ongoing investigation, Would continue. It's innocent until proven guilty, not guilty until proven innocent. Unfortunately, in this society, it is, if you're black. This speaks to the culture of Kearney School District and how you have not checked your implicit biases, nor do you have a willingness to educate yourselves or your staff to be culturally responsive. Kearney's diversity, equity, and inclusion initiative in the early planning stages, a zero tolerance policy explicitly against racially motivated speech and behavior would add a layer of consequences for bigoted actions. Mandatory diversity and cultural sensitivity training is a good idea as well. Those don't work. Witt fears for the lives of her children, and who could blame her? The threat was all too real for one of the few black families in Kearney whose population in 2019 was 92.8% white and just 0.3% black. According to the U.S. Census, Jeremiah Parker, Witt's oldest son, was called a racial slur at least 3 times in 1 year. Jeremiah, age 17, recently completed his first year at Kearney High School. His presence in town wasn't well received. Kearney is becoming a inward-loving town, a co-worker at a local fast food restaurant told Jeremiah his first week at the job. Parker was called the N-word 3 times since the family moved to Kearney last May, and he's heard the derogatory term at school too many times to count. I've been called it so many times it doesn't bother me, Jeremiah said, but it should. No one should ever normalize being called the N-word and any other hateful slur. So there's the story right there. But like I said, and the thing is, I don't even know if Kearney, Missouri was even on my list of the sundown towns when I was examining Missouri, but it should have been. But a lot of people say, oh, these sundown towns don't exist anymore. Well, here's an example right here of it actually existing. There's an example right there. And look at all the stuff that this woman's children had to go through. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say this. Well, she has 7 sons and she's by herself. Where is the dad? I don't know where the dad is. You got to find her and ask her where the dad is. I would say that's crazy, but it's not so crazy and it's not so surprising, nor is it shocking at all. But the parallels between this story and Emmitt Till are strikingly similar over the allegations of a white female being involved and them saying that they're going to come and do this, that, and the third. But see, back then they didn't have text messaging and Snapchat. All they had to do was just go to your house and find out where you live, and they just ran up in there and got you like they did him. But now it's like they'll warn you before they actually do it. So, and the thing is, who really wrote the message? Because not necessarily saying that it couldn't have been a teenager, but it could have been an adult who wrote that. And they probably could have wrote it in a way that a teen would write a message. And then it was so incoherent. Like some of the stuff they were saying didn't even make sense. Like it wasn't a simple declarative sentence. Yes, I know social media, but sheesh. But yeah, and they like to say racism isn't in America anymore or it's gone completely. And this is exactly why it pisses me off when, they sign that anti-Asian hate, whatever they call it, into law. And look at what's still going on today with black people. Still an unprotected class. If they was protected, they could have been protected by a law that was specifically for black people, and they wouldn't have to do all of this. And as far as that so-called inclusivity and sensitivity training, that's a bunch of BS. That's not going to work. That never works. They try to do all of that with the police. They continue. If that was the case, then why are black people still falling by their hands, what seems to be every single day, or at the very least, every single week? So that does not pan out for me at all. And I remember, and that actually, you know what the story also sounds like? Remember in North Carolina where you had those two, not those two, that son and his mother had them PC dub S's roll up to their house, sort of like what they did with Emmitt Till back in the day, over at some allegations involving another white girl and whatnot. Like a whole lynch mob was about to try to come out there, and then when they got exposed, their attorney gonna say they're gonna try to sue them for wrongdoing. The weirdest ish ever. You gonna cause a problem and then make it our fault that the problem was caused by you. Talk about the lack of taking accountability. But hey, according to Kamala Harris and Tim Scott, America, isn't racist, according to them, and a few others who echo those same sentiments. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this down in the comments, and I'll talk to you in the next one.